Hello and welcome. Today's date that comes in that of the completion of the 12th day of January 2020. My name is Derek, and this is the Money Charts channel, where, like always, all bets, trades, and of the like goes within each's own risk and their own reward. What I thought coming into this year and this decade was that it would be very easy to not mistakenly say the year, because I've been doing these videos for quite some time, and we'll say in the previous year and the first several days of January just seems to be a common thing for me. I've done it once this year, and I haven't done quite as many videos. And it's not really that you're not accidentally saying it. Just says it's weird to say 2020. It really wasn't weird to say 2010 or 2011. It seems, because to me it's like the 2-8 stages. Because I grew up I was born in the 70s, but I grew up in the 80s, and that sounded normal. So did the 90s. And historically speaking, I always heard 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s. But historically speaking, I don't remember how they referred to the first two decades. And even in the 1998-99 time frame, I was thinking, well, how are we going to call the decade? And I thought the zeros, that sounds weird. And I never even heard that they even made a decade name for, none that I know of for this one or the last one. So I'm calling this one the 20s. I'm going to be creative with the name. In this video, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin. I don't know what altcoins I'm going to look at. I haven't looked at any altcoin charts in a while. As I'm saying this now, I'm actually quite exhausted right now, but in an okay way. And I'm really glad that the football season's almost over. And I'm going to be going into the sports aspect, talking about the divisional playoff games, and also in line with fantasy football as well. But that'll be at the conclusion of the analysis of these charts. Continuation on Bitcoin within this setup, as on the daily, from this point in here, 2 days ago and sideways, holding this gain. And then 2 days moving into this high here. And within this day, plus the completion of 4, and the current one, is holding this gain very, very productive, at least as I see it. It's doing so on this rising 18 average. Nicely played. And I don't even have to look at the short term, although I will, to see what I'm already going to find out. And I'm going to put 2 horizontal rays just because they're going to look better. But I know that these levels of resistance are going to be big. And we got an ascending triangle. And it's going to look much better on the shorter term time frame. Before going to that, it's worth note that this area here is that key area where it came from. And we've already supported this point here. If there's going to be any deeper ones, this to me is the must hold. We had this low down in here, higher low here, so making some sort of higher low in here would be the most making sense area, if and only if that situation is to take place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line right. I got 2 choices I'm going to put one here for the top. Don't even really need to put one there really, because it's just, no, I don't. Put one here. This high, I presume, is going to be a key one when I look at it shorter term. That coincides this within this ascending triangle, thus on the break above here, retest of this, and then breaking out above that. Then we're going to be started talking about filling up towards this little move in here from the previous high in October. Let's take a look at this next. And actually, what we're going to do, I'm just going to remove this, because when I look at short-term analysis, I'm going to prefer to use a different market than Bitstamp. So the Tether will work fine. And I'll use it on the Binance exchange because it's got a very good volume, and I want to use it from this high here, the high that it made on that day. So 3-hour term, I guess I was wrong. Well, Not really. I mean, maybe. Well, we'll see what happens with the one. But as it plays out in here, this was that big high that it would go up to, as stated, breaking above. We can see it's hit this area twice. We're making these higher lows from the last one on the 4-hour stamp on January 10th. Nice little set of lows here for over a few periods. Then the last little bit here, these lows in here. It's been doing it for quite some time, supporting it. But definitely a very good productive stage, I think, still in play. And maybe I'm a little bit off with the line. I most certainly am. Although, good for this one. I would probably want to reduce it down to like that. And as if it makes that much of a difference. Because technically, it needs to break out above it there anyway. But a very nice setup. Got a sideways reaction from this move in here. So when you have a big key high, big key low, all these types of stuff, retracement rules, whatever word you want to use. And I like the word empty space. I don't know why. So there's the high, there's the low. So this was all of that empty space, and it filled it down to here. And that's another one of retracement. It retraced well more than 38.2%. Large pierce, closer to 46 maybe. And I'm curious, and I'm too exhausted literally to find out. It will not come up. But from that low, now we're in retracement from this empty space, from this low to this high. And so far it's managed to fill some of it. And now we have retracement from these same lows, but now to this high, if it's going to break down below this level of support. There's your Bitcoin analysis. Let's move on within altcoins. I don't know. Dash is... I talked about Dash before. It would be under... Yeah, Dash. Got Dash and Tezos on there. I put that in the wrong side. I still have to move it. How is it holding off within this? It's holding its rally pretty okay, I suppose. A lot of the support of the 7,800 handle that come into play. We're looking at the single hours, so we're looking at last night, now into this morning. I'm talking about North American time, Eastern in particular, Eastern time zone. So the stalling of me not speaking is just me thinking, because normally when I do these videos, I at least take a quick or okay look at it. But it's holding this higher highs and higher lows. Decent correctionary move. Failed to come back to where it came from, but it did successfully correct it. And when I say failed to come back to where we came from, well, take a look at a rare situation for something like that, I suppose. But I mean, sometimes it's because it's a great rally. And it's just, there's a lot of times if it goes down, it has no choice. And because it's a big rally, I mean, it could, the only spot where it came from was here, I suppose. And then you had this long gap. And, well, that was between 68.43 and 68 or 60.30. And it went to like 64, so right in the middle. Either way, it was a retracement. We had the retracement from this low and this high. It filled the entire empty space, 100% of it. It retraced 100%, but no, it's retracing. Maybe it's done, maybe it's not. Over 100%. From this low to this high, currently set in at this high. Highs and lows known after the fact. And because this area hasn't broken down, I don't know if this is going to be the high, because if this holds and this thing starts to go back up, well, this high is going to be replaced. This one here, oh, this sold. New high got established. Then it went to this one. Not much of a correction here. Then it went to here. And it held a little bit here. Had a moderate small breakdown. Not much at all. But then it had a small breakout higher. And I like to think, the bigger the failed move, oftentimes there's going to be a failed one. It'll be a big one. And same thing on the small one. So here we have a small failed breakdown and a small fast move higher. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, let's take a look at this on a bit more of a longer term, because the daily chart is where it gets very interesting, I think. And my monkey brain says volume was pretty big on it before. And I remember, yeah, that's not monkey brain. That I clearly do remember that. Interesting volume coming in here. I just play it for what it's worth. But this volume here, I suppose if we, well, we'll take a look at the volume again on maybe like the weekly and stuff. But, well, it picks up on the break, leaving the 18 average, doing so on January the 3rd. And a big level of resistance, but successfully correcting within the 18. And then there's that spot, like what we mentioned before, doing greater than that 100% correction, seeing it on that particular time frame. On the weekly chart, we can see significant volume in here at a key. And oftentimes, big volume does come in at big turning points of bottoms and tops. Will this be one? Well, time, of course, can only tell. Well, I can't say it can only tell, but it will most certainly tell. But what we know for sure is that this is significant volume, and it's been in a downtrend for quite some time. So, empty space. Retracement mode. I mean, I know this is all whatever in here. And I've shown Dash on the long term. There's even much higher prices above it. So there's a lot of room for possible upside within this market. And yeah, we'll see if this volume does happen to play into anything. And let's go on to Theta. Finish this off. And actually, gold and silver. I have not even... It's been a long time when I have took 4 or 5 hours to not even see the price on a Sunday night. It's 10:23 p.m. as the Green Bay Packers just to finish defeating the Seattle Seahawks. I got both games right today. I'll talk about that in a little bit. As it goes on the weekly, I mean, this is just so easy to read as far as I'm concerned. Do you know what would be better if I do that in a bit? No, I'll do it and I'll bring it back. The logarithmic scale, I think, is very important, and the log scale here flat out sucks. So, I have the availability to multiply it by 100,000, or 100 million rather, and thus I look at it as 1152 Satoshi, only because I got the second best premium service there is. And the reason why is just for the size of the candles to be favorable in comparison from the upper part or from the lower part and the higher end. Volatility, you can see the sizes were small, and they really still are here. So the entirety from what we got, Theta comes up on the open, then it declines for this move, having a lot of support. That interesting day at the late 2018, and then it succeeds in its correctionary phase via what we see here. Exitation was a retest of that high and of its open high, having a pierce higher. Very volatile, and fail to succeed in correcting and succeed within the 18 average. As I've stated, and I'm not going to do it, but nor I think I would be able to, but the moving averages that be in this area here, they're the ones I think would be the important, the ones in this general area. But you can see wherever they would have been, had of course there would have been enough periods, would have ultimately failed that point as well. The retracement of the empty space going lower was more than 100% again. And along the way, we see here resistance at this support, resistance at this support, and what still could be again, keyword, still could be again, resistance from that point. For this was an interesting statement week on December the 9th, period. After all this, stage 1 band flattening out, well, that totally succeeded. Stage 2 established resistance, that's established at 1563. Barely high enough. It could have been a little higher, like around here, either way, close enough. Next stage, come back to the band. Well, we've completed 3 of these weeks. We're starting a new one. And the 18 average of lows comes in at about 1053, which is really in the grips of this area where, that's totally where it really does need to hold. If it doesn't, then that potential level of this resistance here from the support is in play. And you see weakness down below this area. You see holding and staying at areas that's been before, the low 1,000, high 900s. And anywhere in the 900s, especially in the low 900s, because that's in breakdown mode. Then we're looking for that 600-700 number. I've been talking about that for about a half a year now, plus, or at least a half a year, ever since it was coming down there. That I've been saying, well, if it goes down to 700, I was ready to buy Theta at that price. And well, I've been ratio trading and buying it ever since. And when they have these rallies going up and back down, well, that's magnificent. But on the contrary, breaking out above this level of resistance, well, that's stage number 4, reversal of trend. And when these things go, and you've seen these, at least I have, and if you've been watching my videos and you watch other charts, you've seen almost all of these cryptocurrencies. When they're ready to go, they just have phenomenal upside moves. Whether it will be having at this point, I don't know, but I know that it wouldn't surprise me when it's ready to do so that it will. So then again here on the daily term time frame, just still showing a lot of weakness amongst the 18. It's still holding above this little key area. The must hold we can see in this like 1078-ish or so area. That's ballpark, just in the area where it can grind it in. But yeah, let's take a look at this back to the exchange as it was before, because I had the Fibonacci lines on there. And it is at a crucial point because it just happened to be luck that the low on January the 8th and at 1,123 was 4 points piercing below this number. I mean, and then it comes up and then it resists 1277. See, it pierced lower, but only by 1 Satoshi on the number. It's just luck. Okay, so if you see the weakness on there, now you're starting to talk about the 23.6 in previous low. Whether it holds or not, I'd be a little pessimistic. But however, depending on how the crypto markets play out, it's not like Theta's pretty good at holding key areas of support historically within a lot of these runs. They did a lot of it here and doing it here. That's the one thing I think would have going forward, if anything. But it still hasn't broken down from this point, and it's only had this one attempt to get above the highs. And there was this day back in here, not quite, almost, but gold and silver. Let's take a look at it. I have no idea what the prices of it is doing at this time, and this would be in codes. So nothing, well, 0.19. Gold's down 0.35. That's a nothing move. Palladium up nothing. I'm not even going to show it because of... Actually, I'll show it because I'm going to talk about hockey now. So let's put it in this here. What I stated was I'd probably end up writing a book about hockey if I could turn like... well, basically a count of nothing into 10,000. And even though I got a decent amount to go at it, and I have not been profiting since the first day of January. I really haven't been losing at it either, though. I might have to start writing my first few pages because just interesting things I noticed this morning, like, okay, this is a very high risk, high reward kind of game. I can write about that. And, well, this is also a spot where if you want to win at the game, look at the primo example that Toronto and Florida has. And when I talk about good scores, bad scores, and neutral scores, that even if you think a score looks good when it's bad, oh, it was still bad for me tonight. But that's neither here nor there. Over the football season, they have interesting aspects on DraftKings where, for Iron Man statistics, I'll call it, and especially at that, you can actually get some pretty interesting rewards. For my calculations, if you were to mostly every single day you play, but you do it in a strategic way, for my calculations, you could get like $1,000 plus worth of free tournaments. And it only costs you a few $100s, like $400, $500, $600. And you could even go at higher aggressive levels to get like a few $1,000s for free, and it doesn't really cost much at all. As far as football was concerned, It took a lot of work to do it. That's why I kind of wonder if it's even worth it. The net cost was a few $100s. I don't know, 300 maybe I put into it. I probably could have got away with 250. And the reward back, maybe 400. No, 400. No, I put 400 or 500 into it that way. No, 400. And the reward back turns out to be like $250, $300 worth of free tournaments. So I'm thinking, if I bet this and you're going to give me that kind of reward, long term, that's just a good play. And I have this weird streak, and this is where I want to transition this into, of luck. That works volatile and continuous and often and good and bad. Strings of good and bad luck to the point where I can almost predict the things you should never be able to predict over and over and over again. For example, on January the 1st, 2020, players were at high risk on the outdoor classic hockey game of having injuries. And it had nothing to do with the fact that the game was outside. There were other teams in that same time frame that had the same risks. In that game, one player got severely injured as Corey Perry took the walk of shame when he injured Ryan Ellis of the Nashville Predators. The reason why, because these streaks that I have, and they've been going on pretty much my whole life, I can't understand them, but because they happen so often, I can almost explain them. And when things go in these manners, they go. But for what was going on, and there was two things. One, the shots were happening in an interesting mechanism. I won't go over that, but it was always the same. But everyone was getting hurt or getting injured over like a 4, 5, 6 game period of the games that I was betting on from the fantasy aspect and the games I was watching. And I watch pretty much every game I play because I might as well. I'm just seeing guys being injured for the game. The goal of Pittsburgh, Jake Gensel. This was a time frame of like 6, 7, 8 day period. Jake Gensel scores a goal. He's out for the season now after that goal. And there was just been so many cases where 7, 8, 9 guys missed shifts and came back or just got hurt, and literally more often than the laws of average would anticipate such. I've had situations in the past, like say like poker, where playing online poker, I'd flop 4 of a kind 2 times in a row in like 14 seconds. And 4 times during that period in like 5 minutes, I get 4 of a kind. I won about 20 plus consecutive heads-up matches in a row. And I could talk about them on both the bad luck and how they run for several times in periods. But as this has been going on for the recent term period, I needed to take wagers to get these points. One of it is pick who's going to be the one way of picking the best player in the game. And then you bet that player to do so. Last week, I've been going through unluckiness recently quite a bit, even though I've had some good, volatile, lucky swings, the whole point of this. And first week of the wild card round, I just got crushed, losing pretty much. Everything I predicted was wrong. All the players, all the safe picks, Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints, not even close to being the best player. And in yesterday's session, the first game, it was bad. I forget what it was. I lost. But I thought the easiest way, and I'm going to go to Saturday's game, Lamar Jackson. There is no way in the world, I think, that... he's got a 75-80% chance of having the best points in a football game. And that's sick that anyone could have that kind of percent. So I'm watching the game, and right off the bat we have things like, let's have a player tip the ball in the air so the other player interception, stop the drive and give him a negative points for an interception. Another player tips the ball in the air, this time it's incomplete, and then you have a player, the guy's making these mistakes. Everything worked out that not Patrick Mahomes, we'll get to him in a bit as well, but Baltimore's Lamar Jackson was not making many. He failed to convert a 4th and 1 himself. But it was just looking bad. So I turned the game off at like 11 minutes left. And then apparently he just goes off in the 4th quarter and he had the best day. So some sort of weird volatile things must have happened. within it. But I was saying all day to people before that game, Lamar Jackson's going to do terrible. And people are telling me, I mean, hey, dude, you're saying this. Everything you're saying is like correct. Like, you talk about these injuries, it's just happening. It's like sick. And then it comes into today's game. There was an interesting game. And whether I was unlucky or not at the time, the fact that Lamar Jackson bailed me through, I actually lost on my bets. But my side prop to get free rewards definitely hit with my Lamar Jackson. In the early game, I bet on Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Mahomes as quarterback to be the best day. And Kelce had it phenomenally won. But in the first quarter, Kelce dropped a third down conversion. Another receiver dropped third down. Tyreek Hill muffed a play really badly. It was everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And then the second quarter, everything changed. And I'm just seeing all of this interesting luck. And then I was saying to the same person I was talking about injuries all the time. Yeah, watch out for these injuries. And then the whole thing last night about Lamar Jackson, I mentioned, watch out this guy named 81. And I'm going to have to check my notes for his name. I'm so exhausted. Bell. I don't have to check my notes. His name is Bell. Yeah, watch out. Don't be surprised if he gets a touchdown on like a 2-yard touchdown from the end zone sometime in this game. And sure enough, he did. And the statistics would say nothing like he should have. It's just mathematically for how I wanted to play my games. It was actually a smart, calculated, good play. Whether it hits or not, well, that takes luck. It's just my luck in my life is sick. Both in a good way and a bad way. And for the last several weeks, I've been thinking, I kind of like it this way because all these bad luck moments that I've been getting, I'm like, yeah, sure, give me a bunch of extreme good and bad luck. It's like cryptos having like big moves back and forth. It's the same sort of theory, and that's what I like. High volatility as an example of it. And as the game moved on, it worked out to the point. What I do to get the points, what you have to do is you have to get 1,000,000 yards. And in what they call showdowns, you have to get 500 wins. I figure it's going to cost $300-400. I'll take the day to see what it is, see how much I won or lost when it's all said and done as far as my bets were actually concerned. I think I won. I'm not sure. It's close. It might be even. But I'm going to win on the rewards. However, the 1,000,000 yards would get you a whole bunch of points, whole bunch of free status, well over $100-200 worth of free games. And then getting the captaincy of 500 wins is there. So what I would do is I just go to every 10-cent game I could find, with the exception of maybe fantasy video games. Literally, they have fantasy video games. And I would play every game I could find. I'd go every single day, every 30 or so hours, and lately before the game, every 2 or 3 or 4 hours before the game, I would check to see what new games were buy, and I just buy in. And for today's games, I didn't spend too much, maybe $25 a game. It worked out, didn't need to. And on one of my games, because I had pretty good lineups together, the luck in that first game that got extreme in the second and third quarters. For after the third quarter was over, or early in the fourth, I was outstaged to win a couple $300 worth of tournament tickets. I won $125. I won 9 $10 tickets for the Super Bowl, a $25 ticket next week, and a $10 ticket for the Daytona 500 on a month from now. Now, I still don't know if I'm going to be profit on my returns. I've won a whole bunch of other ones last week, and then I end up winning another $50 on the Green Bay game. And then I won a little bit last week. Not much, but I find that a very interesting aspect, how luck is in play. And then for a long time, one of the things that I used to think of, because I picked this happened. Because I thought, or because I picked this player to do good, or I picked this team to win, this team lost. And to me, that's crazy talk, I think. And I've heard so many people say, oh, because I said it, the Vancouver Canucks did this, or because I said it, the New York Yankees won the World Series. And there's thousands of people maybe saying the same sort of thing. But what does make sense to me, and I don't know if this would be true or not, and there's no way of knowing, I don't think, is if you are set to have bad luck or good luck, then your natural thinking reactions of how you're going to decide your actions are going to be reflected to the results that are supposed to be good or bad that are going to happen. Meaning it's all, I'm not going to say it's set in stone, but I kind of am, and it's just hypothetical purpose only, that an eventual outcome is going to happen. So if you are going to have to endure a really bad outcome event, you're just gonna go to what that really bad thing is, even though you don't know it at the time. And then quite the opposite for the great events. And I think I excel at getting that, so I'm trying to relish it in. And really, for the first time, and crypto's been a big help within it over the last 2-3 years with these bad losses since 2018, but bear market started. I can handle losses so easy now. Experience. That does have a lot to deal with it, of course. But anyway, basically stuff I just wanted to talk about. If you're interested literally, if you're interested, there's ways of getting like free rewards big time in fantasy. You can let me know. I can explain to you how to do it, because that doesn't kill. I don't want to say a lot of my information only because it's even more extreme and like poker. In that the more good players that are in the game, the worse it is for me. And the more fish, as they call it, the better. And that is the reason why I don't want to. And why, if I could make the book that damn good, I would probably charge a very high price, because the information would be worth so much. But at the same point, I could even just do another one, like I mentioned, that wouldn't have that type of information that I can sell at an affordable price. Because I'm a crazy guy at times. I think it's right if you want to charge $800 or $1,500 for a book, it's worth it. But if it's profitable for it. Now, in order for me to charge it at that level, I have to ensure that baseball's a winner. Because of volume and volatility in hockey, I mean, that's just terrible risk reward to spend $1,500 for information for what the profit potential's there. Because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be able to do it. And that's what I'm going through these stages. And that's why I'm glad the football season's pretty much over. And even after today, what I did in the 2 weeks of the playoffs meant that come next week in the conference championship games, I can play it easy. It's only going to take me like 4 or 5 minutes work to do my football lineups. Where this last 2 weekends, it was hours and hours and hours and a few hours each time per weekend. But that's because to get 1,000,000 yards, I needed to get a lot of 10-cent games. I needed to make a whole bunch of different lineup combinations, and that was really the time constraint on that one. And then, of course, within hockey, I notice it probably takes me to do one game. I can spend 2 to 3 hours, 4 hours sometimes on one game, and I'm gonna do at least 2 hours tomorrow. And it's not a normal game. It wasn't a normal game today. It was one where you had to bet less, and I don't know how I lost 20% tonight. I really don't. I'm going to figure it out. But it makes sense because I knew it was high risk, high reward. And tomorrow is the exact same thing as well. So thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great upcoming week. Bye-bye.